One of the reasons I come out here is I love to ride my motorcycle. So there's plenty of great areas to explore. The hill country is beautiful to ride through.
It
So
is. It
we
is.
love it here.
Joseph Leedy, how you doing, my friend?
I am wonderful, thank you. And how are you?
I'm doing good, hanging in there, hanging by a thread. I have a buddy who told me that he had a manager who would always say hanging by a thread whenever they asked him how he was doing. So I've adopted that. Um, but so you have been a long time Magetalk fan, and we have really appreciated the support. You've been in the live streams and giving us shout outs and stuff on Twitter, which I appreciate. So sorry it's taken so long to get you on the podcast here, but it's good to have you.
Yes, I thank you for having me here today. I've been listening since the very beginning. I believe I started with episode 4.
Okay.
Um, Fell in love at episode 4, and then went back and listened to the first 3 episodes. And I believe that must have been October 2014. I want
Dude,
to say.
I literally, man, I think back and I can't remember the dates at all, but that sounds about right. It's been so long. That does
And
sound about right.
you're the only one that I've subscribed to Twitter notifications for, and the reason I subscribe to Twitter notifications is for when you post new episodes.
Nice, man. That's cool. Yeah, it's really cool, man, to get that support and stuff like that, and hopefully that's been educational over the years.
It has been. I love what you guys do for the community.
Thanks, man. So you moved to Austin somewhat recently. Um, has it been a year now, something like that? A year and a half?
Well, actually, I can't believe this, but coming up here in, I think about 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks now, the 23rd, will be 2 years.
2 years. Dang. So then, because I'm let's see, I'm at two. No, wait. I'll be 3 years in January. So I guess you must have moved out here when I had been here for like 6 months or something like that. 6, 9 months.
Yes, I moved here on October 23rd, 2018.
Nice, nice. And so how are you liking it out in Austin?
Oh, I love Austin. It's a great place to live. It's a nice city with great scenery around. Um, I like it. I moved here from the Miami area in South Florida,
Right.
and I certainly like it more than Miami.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of where I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that open area and be able to explore. Because one of the reasons I come out here is I love to ride my motorcycle. So there's plenty of great areas to explore. The hill country is beautiful to ride through.
It
So
is. It
we
is.
love it here.
Yeah, we spent some time at like a cabin here on the lake in the hill country recently, and it's so nice. It's like it's unreal. I don't think people realize how nice it is out there. It's it's really cool. What where do you ride your motorcycle?
But generally, I just pick a direction and go. Some weeks it'll be the area east
How
of
long do you
Austin.
drive for? Like a couple hours or like an hour?
Usually, I don't measure by hours; I measure by miles. So
Mhm.
usually anywhere from 150 to 200 miles
Okay.
generally.
Nice, man. That's got to be a blast.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I absolutely love it. There's nothing better than the feeling of the open road and the wind in your hair and all that. So
That's great, man.
it's a great experience.
I was thinking about getting a motorcycle, like I don't know when, maybe a year ago, something like that. And it's a little harder when you got kids and stuff like that, But I'm definitely jealous. I'm definitely a little jealous.
Yeah, you should do it, man. Especially when the kids get older, man. I'll tell you what, the best way to start is I started out by taking the motorcycle safety course,
Mm,
which in Pennsylvania at the time, this is back in 2004, it was not required. I think it is now a requirement to get your license that you have to take the safety course. But that's something that a lot of people miss is they don't take the safety course and then they're really not great at riding or not fit to ride.
mm,
And that's where you see a lot of accidents. You see a lot of people acting stupid. It's because they just never learned to ride properly.
mm-hmm,
So definitely taking a safety course is the first step.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I was looking that up, and I found some places where you could take the safety course, and then that was where I threw. It cost like a couple $100 or something like that to take that.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is in
It's
Texas,
probably
but
been a while since you had to
yeah, when
do
I
it.
took it in 2004, it was free.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Um, so have you been hitting the meetup scene out here in Austin and stuff like that? Obviously, like pre-COVID, have you been getting out and getting to meet people at meetups and stuff?
Yes, I'm a member of the Austin PHP meetup.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great meetup. Uh, They also have, I'm still a member of their Slack channel,
Mm-hmm.
uh, PHP, and they also are now doing virtual meetups along in combination with, I believe, Boston PHP and possibly Atlanta
Mm-hmm.
or another city. It's called Merge PHP meetup.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing that now. They're participating in that now. And there's also the Commerce Party meetup here too
Mm-hmm.
that was meeting before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that's the one that's run by
Shipper HQ.
Karen Baker and
Yeah.
Shipper HQ.
Yeah. That's cool. The virtual meetups, like I don't understand, like why, like I don't understand how you'd have like a specific city virtual meetup. Like if you're gonna do a virtual meetup, it might as well just be like a global virtual meetup, I feel.
I believe that's the reasoning behind Merge PHP. I don't know much about Merge PHP or how it got founded, but it was probably a bunch of meetup organizers that got together and said, "Hey, everything's virtual now. Let's join forces."
Mm-hmm. Right. Are you enjoying the virtual meetups at all? Are you liking?
I honestly haven't actually gone to only one or two of them because um, they're on Eastern time, meaning that they're really early here. So
Mm-hmm.
they're at clock here, 7 Eastern time, and that's just right as I'm finishing up my day and I'm sitting down to relax. So that
Not
just
the best
that
timing.
yeah, just not the best timing. If it was around 7 o'clock um, Central Time, that would be fine with me.
Mm,
But I eat dinner right around 6:30, so um, that's just 6 o'clock just doesn't work for me.
yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. So, how is COVID remote work going for you? Like, it's a little different than like working remotely in general, right? And you work for Wagento based out of Minneapolis. And so you're sort of remote, but like, how's it going during all the, during the COVID times, in general for you?
It's definitely different, but it's in some ways it's the same. The thing that's been the most different is pre-COVID, I had a shared office space in North Austin.
Hmm.
I was able to, a couple days a week go into the office, be around other people, and kind of have that work environment.
Right.
Um, Whereas since the pandemic, I canceled my membership and I've been working from home. So you don't get that interaction working from home as much as you do from working from an office.
Right. Are any of the co-working spaces open?
But yes, the one that I was a member of, Impact Hub, as far as I know, is still open.
Oh, okay. So then why did you cancel it if it's still open?
I just,
Oh, you just
don't
wanted to
feel,
be on the safe side?
yeah, I just don't feel it's safe right now to be in that kind of environment.
Right. Right.
It's over.
Right. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, it's tough, man. So missing that in-person interaction a bit.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead.
Other than that, it's been fairly the same. I still have the same routine I did when work from home prior to the pandemic.
Mm.
Uh, I have a very strict routine that I've set for myself.
Oh yeah?
Kind of keep my work and life balance in check.
Okay.
Um, Basically, I treat working from home as if I'm going to the office. So I had in my apartment here, I have a separate office space.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the reason I chose this apartment is because it had a separate office in it. It's
Nice.
basically a second room, not quite a bedroom, but a second room with an open doorway, as you can see behind me, that leads out into a hallway. And so by having everything in that separate room, I'm not always there at my computer. And the thing is, I follow the same strict routine every morning, um, as if I was going to an office. So I get up, I brush my teeth, take a shower, get dressed, and I don't dress in street clothes like this unless it's Friday. I actually wear business casual like polos, button ups,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a nice pair of jeans, as
Mm-hmm.
if I was going to an office.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get up. After my shower, I make my coffee, and then I come in here and do my work. And then at 5:30, I started right around 8:30, and at 5:30, that's it for me. I leave this office, get changed into my normal clothes as if I was going home, and then don't come back in here until 8:30 the next morning. So I feel that by having that strict routine, I can easily keep things separate between work and life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so important. It's like it's so tough to have that balance when you're just inside in the same place so much of the day. And I think that's smart, to have just a separate room and a schedule and stuff like that. And then a lot of people do the clothes thing. Like I think that definitely helps a lot of people, right? Like to dress, in basically your work clothes. It's funny because I've started wearing polo shirts and stuff like that a little bit, but it's not it's not so much for that. It's not so much for work. It's just I don't know, I just wanted to start wearing polo shirts more often. I found these really comfortable ones at the store at Target actually. And so anyways, but for me I never felt that productivity boost from how I dressed really necessarily, but I know a lot of people do, you know, get that.
Yeah, for me, that does work because, um, you know, I guess the first agency I worked for was Paradox Labs. And for the first year or so that I worked there, we didn't have a dress code. It was just wear where we want. So I always came in t-shirt and jeans or t-shirt and shorts, much like I'm dressed right now.
Hmm.
But um, after that first year, they announced that they were going to have a dress code, and I, like everybody else, was against it. But once I started dressing that business casual with the polos and dress downs, I felt like I was actually going to work and not just hang out
Yeah,
and do stuff.
yeah,
So I've gotten kind of used to that. I've gotten in that mindset where when I put on the clothes, I'm all business.
all business. Absolutely, that's cool. Um, are there any tools or like processes as far as work, as far as working with your team, Slack stuff, plugins, whatever, that helps you really stay productive, or just to stay sane, like while you're working?
Um, Unfortunately, we don't really have anything special along those lines. Um, Actually, I haven't even given that a thought. But maybe there's something we could look at in the future. But no,
But even
mostly we
anything in terms of how you use Slack, or your collaboration tools or meeting tools, anything like that, just anything that helps you stay productive working remotely.
um, I think one of the biggest things is uh, being able to sometimes turn off Slack, turn off notifications on the computer.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Being able to put that aside and focus on what you're doing rather than having to always be available.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that helps you out.
Yeah, I think that's real important.
So that that is something that we do from time to time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
for the most part, the clients are okay with that.
Right. What kind of schedule or frequency do you have of turning off notifications and just zoning in?
I'd say I do it probably about 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
Usually I have meetings in the morning, so I try to be as productive as possible in the afternoon. So usually after when I come back from lunch, I'll from probably about 2 until 4, I'll sometimes just turn off my notifications if I have no more meetings in the afternoon
Gotcha.
and just power through.
Yeah. Afternoons are tough for me, like productivity wise. Like that's always been where I start to zone out a little bit, in the afternoon, that afternoon lull. So props
And
props to you for staying productive through the afternoons. Are you a big coffee drinker? Are you a coffee guy?
I wouldn't call myself a big coffee drinker. I only
Just
drink
a
it by
regular.
necessity. So I'll have a cup or two in the morning, and that's about it. It's really not my favorite thing. It's just basically a tool for me to
Gotcha.
get started in the morning.
Gotcha. Right on. So I saw that Wagento recently built a Magento integration with Sift,
Yes,
a fraud detection kind of product. So congrats on that launch. Did you get a
yeah,
chance to work on that at all?
yes. I was the tech lead on that project, so
Nice.
it was a very fun project to work on. It's the first time I ever built a fraud integration for Magento, so I learned a
Nice.
lot. From
What's some of the
that.
stuff you learned?
A lot about how the order process works, um, a lot about how the payment process works, and things along that line. So where to break into the payment process, you know, to send the calls um, out to the SIF service, and then interrupt the checkout if necessary to say, hey, your order is fraud, you can't place this order.
Hmm.
So a lot of things of that nature. So that was
What were the integration points in the payment processing flow that you sort of played around with to event, and what did you eventually land on as far as like which event to intercept or whatever?
so we tried different parts of the checkout, like I believe we tried the submit payment after event, um, the uh, before place order event. We tried several different events, but what we
Mm-hmm.
found out best, because the way that SIF works, it needs to be able to, before a payment even takes place, it needs to be able to block that payment if the order is deemed as fraudulent.
Mm-hmm.
So what we wound up actually doing is putting a plugin on top, an around plugin on top of the place order uh, method, and we grab all the order data, all the payment information within reason. We don't certainly don't get the credit card numbers or anything like that. We get just a very limited amount of information, we get enough data, we collect enough data to send into SIFT, determine SIFT will determine whether or not that order meets the criteria for fraud. And if it doesn't, then we allow that order to go through by running the proceed method in the plugin to allow it to continue.
Right.
If not, we prevent that payment from even going to the payment processor. And instead, we throw an exception saying that the order is cannot be placed at this time.
Right.
And then we, you know, the I can't remember how, but we notify the merchant that this order is suspected fraud.
Right.
They can go in and review it and either allow it or approve it or disapprove of it
Right.
and determine whether or not they want it to go through.
Right. 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 Nice. How fast are those API calls to sift um, to determine whether the order is fraudulent? Are they pretty quick?
Yeah, from our testing, SIF's API is probably one of the fastest I've ever seen,
Yeah.
and they naturally have to be because of the fact that you don't want your customers waiting at the checkout for a third party process like that.
Yeah. 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 Totally. It's an interesting. It's an interesting problem space to be. I mean, it's an interesting industry to be in. Like anytime you're in the critical path of the checkout, it's like you better not go down. You better not have any issues.
Well, you got to be very careful what you do when you're in that critical path.
Yeah.
That was something that took a lot of testing for us is to figure out how not to break things, so to speak,
Yeah.
when we're doing our operations.
Yeah. Any particular things or like tips you found in there for somebody if somebody's doing some work intercepting the order processing events, payment processing, anything to in particular to look out for?
Um, nothing that I can recall off the top of my head, but just basically just be careful what errors you throw. Make sure you validate all your data properly. Um, make sure that you have the right checks in place if the API doesn't return a value to allow the order to even go through. So that's one of the things we wound up actually doing is if we don't get a response back from SIFT in a certain period of time, or there's no response at all, or we get an error response from SIFT, like a HTTP 500 or something like that, we still allow the order to go through, and then we allow we mark it as a pending order instead of
Right.
allowing the full place to take place.
Right.
And then the administrator can go back and review that order and determine whether or not to make a manual fraud decision. So that's something that we also learned is um, how to handle it when the API doesn't respond.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one of those ones that you don't like. I've definitely built integrations like that before where you just assume the API is going to respond and then you realize, oh, if it doesn't, I got to handle that gracefully. Um, did you consider like retrying? Let's say they throw a 500 error. Did you consider retrying the request in the future versus just kicking it to a manual process?
So I think that I might be wrong about this, but I think the way that works is it gets kicked into a review state in Magento. We have a cron job that checks periodically for that review state.
Hmm.
It tries to make the request again, and then if that request doesn't go through, I think that's when it goes to the manual review.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Cool. How did you attend the recent Adobe Online conference?
The live developers conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great conference. I did attend that.
Yeah, you liked it?
Yeah,
Nice.
I really love that Hopin.2 platform.
It's a pretty cool platform.
It is. It's great the way they have those breakout meeting rooms and the various sessions. It's just like being. It's almost like being at a real conference.
Yeah, when I did the networking feature, that's the closest I felt to being at an actual conference. Um,
The random networking feature where they pair you with
yeah,
a complete stranger. That's
yeah,
a lot sometimes, but it's a
yeah,
free feature.
yeah. Well, that's the thing about networking. I mean, networking is a little awkward sometimes, but that's like that's part of what makes it interesting is you don't know exactly what you're gonna get, you know. Um, and I thought it was cool how it's time boxed too. Like,
Yes, you get like 3 minutes, I believe.
yeah, 5 minutes, something like that, and then it just kicks you off, which is kind of neat.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so you like the rest of the conference content and stuff like that? Anything that popped out to you?
Yes, learning about the new features that are coming down the pike, like the new what do they call that? They're doing a new storefront thing, I believe, where they're trying to split everything up. Um, you kind of decouple everything. So that was fascinating. There's also a new tool that they're coming out with to make I believe it's to make the updates easier to perform. So it goes through and checks all your custom code and allows you to see if there's any conflicts between the version you're updating to and your custom changes. So that's pretty neat.
Gotcha.
So
That's
those are
pretty
the two
cool.
biggest things I remember the most from that
Nice.
event.
Nice. Yeah, that was neat. Um, what's your feeling right now about sort of the Magento community in general and the direction of the product? Commercial, open source, all of it. Like what's your overall feeling right now?
Well, what I'm seeing in the community that right now is a lot of people have been maligning the product and they don't like the direction things are heading in. I've seen a lot of people jumping ship, especially a lot of people who have been around for years. A lot of the big names are starting to move to other platforms or even move out of commerce altogether. That kind of makes me sad sometimes when I see that.
Hmm.
But I think Magento itself is just, since the Adobe acquisition is heading it in a different direction than what most people would like. I think they're heading more up market than most people would like. Um, that really hasn't affected my day to day work yet. So I really don't have much of an opinion on that. But I will say that I do sometimes wish that they would respect the community a little bit more. But the community have a little bit more of a voice sometimes,
What would
especially
that what would that
updating.
look like? What do you think that would look like for the community to have more of a voice?
I think the one of the biggest issues right now is the contributions. You see a lot of people who are trying to contribute back and either getting their pull requests closed because somebody at Magento doesn't want to merge, or there's just some technical reason that they can't. So I'd like to see them be a little more. Um, I'd like to see them handle those a little bit more gracefully
Hmm.
rather than just straight up closing people's issues. Give a good explanation, try to work with that person. Um, try to be empathetic to that person and understand that they put in a lot of time
Right,
on that contribution.
right. But they still have community members that are reviewing pull requests and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, certainly. I think one of the biggest reviewers is, at least from what I've seen lately, has been Lukesh Bajsarowicz.
Hmm.
If I didn't butcher his name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah,
call him Lucas. Lucas has been, from what I've seen lately, is quickly becoming one of the biggest contributors to Magento. He's contributed a lot of nice fixes, and I
yeah.
think he's starting to get more involved in the review process too, from what I've seen.
Yeah,
So I definitely thank him. I think he's becoming a rising star in the community.
I think so. He
When
also
I met him,
started. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
when I met him a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago at the Magetalk Fest in the Netherlands, I had no idea who he was, and uh, now everybody I think knows who he is.
Yeah. He also created the Mage Zine. Did you see
Yes.
that? I thought that was so cool.
Any new episodes of that in a few months.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything recently, but I
I
love
think
it.
they
They
had
did.
three. I think that was it.
I think so.
Three
3 issues.
issues. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it was so cool. They did such a good job with that print magazine. It was so well
Oh,
done,
good.
well designed, and everything. Um, yeah. So, but I mean, my point was like, if there are community members that are part of the review process, then and I think they are a significant part of the review process. And if they're the ones closing pull requests, then you kind of can't necessarily say the community doesn't have enough of a voice because that is the community. Although, of course, you could critique what they're doing if there's a more graceful way they could, be closing those pull requests. Um,
Well, one thing I've seen is that even Chip Herney has attempted to contribute several performance fixes back to the core. And on those performance fixes, he's been delayed and then told that they can't be merged.
gotcha.
And to the point where he's talked about, I believe he's talked about, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe he's talked about not contributing anymore.
Oh,
And
that's not good. That's not good. That's a huge loss. I mean, he's such a
it's a huge
talent.
loss to me.
Yeah.
He, he's so talented. He's helped me out. He's helped everybody out. So I think that we have to do a better job of holding on to people like that. Like even like Vinay and other people that are that want to leave the community because of the issues that they've been seeing lately. So we definitely need to do a job of retaining that talent.
Yeah, 100%. What was the thing with Vinay? I'm not sure I saw that recently.
Um, the only thing with I really haven't seen much from Vinay. I just know that he's been a little bit more quiet in the community
Oh,
lately. I
right.
think he's been doing a lot more shopware work from what I've seen.
Right. A lot of people are looking at shopware.
Yeah,
It's it
that's the thing is a lot of people are jumping ship in the community to go to shopware. It seems to be like the next big thing right now.
yeah. It feel I don't know. It just feels like I noticed Peter Yap was doing a bunch of blogging on it and stuff, and it just feels like a lot of parallels to Magento back in the early days, kind of.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I've heard too.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I hear you, man. I mean, I don't know. For me, I was sad. I was sad as well when at some point, when I saw people going to other platforms. And then at some point along the way, I think I kind of was just kind of accepted the fact that it's just a more sort of multi-platform world now. And I don't know, like I think the community is we're all still connected, but just in different ways. It's not the same as it was before when everything was just all Magento, which is cool. Like, I mean, I miss that too in many ways, but I don't know. I guess I've accepted it kind of.
Yeah, and I guess I'm gonna have to accept it too because that's just the way things are heading.
I think
You
so.
know, e-commerce is exploding right now. It's really the field to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Especially with this pandemic, a lot of stores are going online now and um, figuring out the whole online presence part of their business more so than ever.
yeah.
And that's really something that we've seen it with Gento too.
Yeah.
We've seen uh, clients asking for additional features on their web stores because they've freed up some budget from having to close their their traditional brick and mortar stores, and now they need to drum up more business. So they turn to the online business and look where they can shore that up to and add extra features to increase that revenue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are you focused on learning right now in terms of development tools, Magento stuff, PHP, JavaScript, whatever? What kinds of things are you focused on learning right now?
I'm really excited about PHP 8 to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nice features coming in PHP 8, and I've been doing my best to learn about them, read all the RFCs that are coming out now for 8.
Oh, you're one of those guys that reads RFCs, huh?
Yes.
It's intense.
thank, thank goodness for externals IO, right?
What's I don't know if I've ever heard of that. What is externals IO?
So PHP has this discussion mailing list where all the core PHP developers uh, talk about everything, and it's called internals. So
Oh,
generally,
right, right, right,
only the core PHP developers can access internals.
right.
But then they also have a feed outside of that called externals
Oh,
that
okay,
gives you a view to all those conversations.
gotcha. That's interesting.
So by following through externals, you get to see all the conversation going on around the development of PHP and all the conversations going on around the RFC. And sometimes there's controversy in externals, like the whole PHP ICSI thing a couple of years ago, and then the mass exodus from Fig and uh, things of that nature.
Yeah,
But for the most part, it's pretty civil in there.
yeah.
But back to PHP 8, there's a lot of neat features coming. There's union types, match expressions, named arguments, the constructor arguments now, where instead of declaring all your properties on the class, you can declare them in the constructor and not have to redeclare them again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, attributes. Attributes are a great feature, I think.
How do
Um,
attributes work?
So, are you familiar with annotations in prior versions of PHP where you would have a doc block,
Uh,
and then inside the doc block you have an at symbol and whatever
right,
annotation it is, and you can use that to process extra things like your doctrine ORM or your symphony validation or things of that
right,
nature.
right, right.
So, with attributes now, are going to replace that, and instead of
Gotcha.
declaring a doc block, um, you put an attribute in whatever property you want to property or method or whatever you want to annotate, and it takes the place of that. So it's actually native in PHP now, rather than kind of using a hack with reflection in the doc blocks. You're still using reflection to parse the attributes, but it's much cleaner than it would be with trying to parse a doc block.
Gotcha. Nice. Man, so you're pretty deep into PHP. Like I was never one of those guys that like read RFCs or even paid attention to like new features of the language itself. Like I was mostly on the framework level, and whenever something bubbled up to me as far as a new feature, I'd use it. But
Well, I've been doing PHP for almost 20 years now, since about 2002. I can tell you,
yep,
I started in PHP 4 days, and so much has changed over the years.
yeah,
And PHP gets bad rep sometimes, and I think it's because of what you're saying. People don't keep up with the features. They don't see that all the leaps and bounds that were made with the OOP system and the object-oriented programming system in PHP 5.
hmm,
They don't see how that got better in 5. They don't see how the type system got better in 7 and how it's going to get even better in 8. They don't keep up with those features, so everybody thinks it's just this basic language that people just use for banging together quick scripts, and then they malign it all the time
mm,
and, and say, well, why you waste your time with developing on PHP? I'm like, look, have you taken a look at the language lately? Have you seen all the amazing stuff that's coming down the pike? You know, PHP. is where it's at right now, and it makes me a lot of money. It's made me.
There you go.
I continue to do it. I continue to learn.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I'm telling you, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm still learning. I've
yeah,
been doing PHP since 2002, and web development in general as a hobby since 1999.
yeah,
And there's still every day I learn things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I started developing when I was probably in like 96, 97, but I was like learning C, and then I was doing like Q basic and stuff like that, and I was learning Pascal. And yeah, dude, you ever build like the banana game in Q basic where like,
No, but I built a snake game before.
oh, okay. I saw a YouTube video the other day where some guy built a snake game in like 4 minutes or something like that. And he was like writing JavaScript in Notepad. It was bizarre.
Wow.
But he must have practiced it because it worked on the very first try. Like there's
Mhm.
just no way. All sorts of nested loops and all sorts of crazy array logic and stuff. I was like, there's no way that you didn't practice that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's insane. Like I can't believe there's people who can just uh, write entire programs from memory like that.
yeah,
Um, I've learned and forgotten so many things over the years, and let me tell you what, Stack Overflow, the invention of Stack Overflow has been a great help.
yeah, it is.
So I don't have to remember as much.
Yeah. Yeah, Stack Overflow is huge. And it's funny because like it's been around so long that some of the information's outdated now. So you do a
Yeah,
search for something, and that's got to be a difficult problem for them to solve because you could have an answer that has a lot of upvotes, a lot of whatever, a lot of credibility to it. But how do they determine across their whole network that something is now outdated, you know?
yeah. So that's actually kind of funny because back in 2014, I answered a question on how to install. Um, I believe it was install how to install a certain version of Git 2 on CentOS because at the time there was no available Rebus for it, and CentOS was on an old version of Git 1.7 or something like that. To this day, that is still my most upvoted question
Yeah.
on Stack Overflow. I still get upvotes. I still get at least 5 upvotes a week on that thing. That question is so far out of date now. It's
That's hilarious. And
minting
sometimes,
upvotes.
yeah, but sometimes you want the older answer. Like I might be
Yeah.
looking for something in Laravel and I'm getting answers for Laravel version 7 and I want the answer for 5.5 or whatever. So that's got to be a tricky problem to solve for them.
Hmm.
But more and more, I'll find answers. It used to be if you find an answer on Stack Overflow, it's the gold standard. You don't even have to think about whether it's correct or not. But I've noticed that recently I'll have to kind of second guess, like, wait a minute, is this? I'm not sure if I believe this or not. You know?
You do have to verify everything that you find.
Yeah, yeah. Quora is a weird one, man. Quora is like it used to be so good, and it's literally like if you click on a Quora thing, the first like 90% of the page is all ads, all sorts of
Yeah,
different ads, stuff like that. And then like the questions themselves, the answers will be super out of date or like super spammy. It's like I always thought Quora was just going to get better and better over time. But
I could never get down with Quora to be honest with you. But let me tell you, this will tell you how long I've been around in the development world. Do you remember Experts Exchange back in the
oh
day?
yeah, oh yeah, Actors Exchange.
That was
That
that was the OG, and I remember they
was
had
the
to change
worst.
their domain name too for certain reasons because
Oh,
their
did they?
domain didn't read very friendly. You have to
Landing?
interpret their domain name if you
Yeah.
looked at. So they had to put a hyphen in it. But
Oh, okay.
I remember everything you search for. This is before Stack Overflow. Everything came up on Stack Experts Exchange. You get like one free answer, and then you had to pay for the other answer.
It was horrible. It
It was the
was
worst.
it was so I remember you'd have to scroll down forever and stuff like that, and,
Yeah.
yeah, it was bad.
You play with the HTML enough on that page, you can actually find the right answer.
Right,
That's
right,
a pain.
right. Yeah, I was doing my first job out of college, I was doing ASP, classic ASP, not ASP.NET, and, um, and I remember I was working in a strip mall on top of a 7-Eleven in the second story doing a classic ASP and surfing experts exchange trying to figure things out. It was rough.
Yeah.
And I was commuting 2 hours each way from LA to Santa Monica to get there.
Wow.
So yeah, it was no bueno. But Joseph, this has been a lot of fun, man. Last question. Last question. I was talking to Laura yesterday and she was ranting about UI components.
Oh, you need to get her on the show too.
I did. I just got her on yesterday, so we're gonna publish that soon. Um,
Awesome.
do you understand UI components? That's the question for you, my friend.
I do somewhat, and every time I think I understand them, I find something else I didn't learn.
Okay.
Like for example, they've changed the syntax in 2.3. So they went from it used to be that UI component when you define it in XML, it used to all be like item. It used to be like a whole bunch of non-descriptive tags. Now they've changed it so that it's all semantic. So they're always changing things, how things work. So keep trying to keep up with that is can be a little bit of a chore sometimes. But I'm glad they made that change to semantic elements now because now it makes more sense. It's a little bit easier to understand. But the question to answer your question, I do somewhat understand them, but I'm always learning. There's
Yeah.
always they're changing things. There's always things you don't know,
Right.
and
Right.
there's other things, other parts of the UI components. I can build you a grid, but I can't tell you how to modify the checkout because those UI components in the checkout are like that long.
That's the same thing Laura was saying, actually. She was talking about the checkout UI components. Yeah, it seems like it's a little bit of a complex feature. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, man, thanks again for coming on the show. Where's the best place for people to find you online?
Um, well, I don't have a blog anymore. I am on Twitter at Joseph Leedy, but I don't tweet very often, and most of my tweets lately have been political because of what's going on in the country right now. A lot of
Right,
bad things going on, and a lot
right,
of civil unrest.
right,
Um,
right,
but that's where I am most of the time is on Twitter if I'm anywhere.
right. Okay, awesome, man. Well, thanks for that. Was
Thank
there
you so
something
much.
you wanted to say? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks again, man, for all your support. It was great to finally get you on. And
I've been able to get me on, or Philip, sorry. I've been trying to ask Philip to get me on the show for years now, and finally got through to you.
finally got through. That's awesome, man. All
Long
right.
time caller, or long time listener, first time caller.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, brother. We will talk to you soon. Over and out.